I could not listen to this record because I hated I Miss You as a song because I thought this is the most hot topic ass bullshit I have ever done here.
Oh my God.
The Emo Social Club is reviewing nostalgic records from our youths, from our past, from all time, from the Warped Tour to the summer tours to the reunion tours, all of the tours that are happening. All of them just went on sale. Hope you bought one. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows who can afford all of these? I know when I got triple hit in 1 month.
It's been difficult. Luckily, this band is playing at When We Were Young Fest 2025.
Wow.
We're not doing reviews of all of those albums, but this one will be from that lineup, I guess, because it's on there as one of the albums they're playing.
They said that they will be playing, allegedly, some songs off of here.
Yeah.
So I would think.
So on this review, we're doing blink-182's Untitled. It's written as self-titled on the flyer. People got mad at that shit. This is an untitled record, or Blink-182's Blink-182, I guess if you want to, but Untitled is how I always learned
We'll
this.
get a little bit more into that because I got some notes on that too.
And yes, before we get into our thoughts and opinions, Lizzie, tell us more about this Blink-182 record.
Yeah, this was their 5th album. This came out on November 18th, 2003 via Geffen Records. They basically came here and said, we need more structure. We need this to sound more mature because if we listen to literally anything else from Blink-182 prior, we know what it is.
Yep.
We love it, but people grow, people move on in life, ideally. This was also produced by Jerry Finn.
I might have accidentally put all of Jerry Finn's best records on our list of albums to review.
Accidentally?
I'm not wrong, though. I'm not wrong when I did that. I've never been more right than doing that.
This was a more personal approach because with the lyricism, this got a lot darker for Blink-182. For this band specifically and for the genre during that time, this was a huge curveball. The singles off of here were Feeling This, I Miss You, Down, and Always, with Feeling This also being featured in the Madden NFL 2004 video game. Feeling This also peaked at number 2 on the modern rock charts. I Miss You dethroned Who But Thinks the Reason on the modern rock charts as well.
You hate to see two kings fighting. You love to see two kings winning. You hate to see two kings fighting.
For this release during that time, this was their longest album, clocking it at 49 minutes. Now, One More Time, their most recent album, is at 50 minutes. So they obviously do have longer albums now. But this was revolutionary for them.
For the genre.
Yeah, for the genre. For the culture, it was very revolutionary. This also debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200 charts, sold 313,000 units in the first week. This Untitled record was also the 49th highest selling album worldwide in 2003.
You're like, oh, it's crazy that you picked all these Jerry Finn records. I'm like, I'm sorry, they were some of the biggest records of the years they came out. My bad. Oops.
This also hit number 1 in Canada. This was also different in their recording process because previously they basically wrote independently and came together. This is the first time they actually worked together on every single song, probably because of that and because they were doing a bunch of different things at that time too. This took almost a year to finish. So they started recording December 2002, ended in October 2003. What was also kind of cool is that Travis Barker, he said that he envisioned this as a movie with every song flowing into each other.
Don't give this to her. Don't give this to her.
Thank you, Travis Barker.
Where's the A24 film?
Where is it?
It's Untitled.
Remember that there's a bunch of, just in general, pop punk and emo songs from back in the day that do reference certain larger cultural events. So Stockholm Syndrome, referencing World War II, the interlude, when it is spoken, is actually from a letter that Mark Hoppus's grandmother wrote to his grandfather during World War II.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Right?
That's rad as hell.
Sick, honestly, because I was listening to it and I said, wow, this feels not like you were writing this actually for a theatrical moment. This sounds a little bit more genuine. So I was really confused until I researched this. We need to bring that back because it reminded me of Alive with the Glory of Love from Say Anything.
Yeah.
We need to bring back cultural references in pop punk and emo music.
We need to have personal anecdotes and stories in them about family members and historical events that they lived through, writing about the emotions of people that are in your life and your family, and getting a little bit deep with those moments of who you are as a person, because no one else can share that moment. No one else knows what Max Bemis went through, learning that information about his grandparents, or what Mark Hoppus went through seeing this letter and finding this, and what inspired like writing the song and putting the actual letter being read in it. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
No one can do that except for Mark Hoppus in that moment.
You want to immortalize your grandparents' memories forever. Get the scrapbook. Just start a band and write songs about it instead.
Start a pop punk band in the late 90s, and then you too can remember your family forever.
There's also the hotly debated what is the actual title of this album. On the original pressers, the press releases says that this is Untitled. But there were different people who were saying it was just self-titled. The smiley face that also was brought out was because Travis Barker wanted the band to have more significant branding that stood out for them, which worked well. I mean, it's on every single shirt.
They brought it back for the new record with the 6 arrows now being like, this is like our 6th record or something like that. I forget how they worded it, but I know like this logo went on to become like the most iconic Blink-182 thing. The rabbit was also there, but like,
yeah, the
no
rabbit
one thinks of
hasn't
the
like
rabbit.
stood.
Yeah, the rabbit feels so late 90s.
Oh
like,
yeah,
so skateboard culture is so late 90s. But this feels like modern emo.
It's long standing.
Pop punk. Yeah, like that is like, that's the t-shirt, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's the t-shirt.
They also got Robert Smith from The Cure to feature on all of this. Then we see as they're trying to go on another tour in 2005, they're just like not talking to each other. It's not working out. They have Always, which is the last single release from this album. They're trying to tour on that to promote it. They say, screw it, go on an indefinite hiatus. We know that didn't last for that long, but that was kind of the breaking point, kind of the end of that era, because Hoppus was like, I really don't like this direction.
What happened was there was a lot of hurt feelings when Tom went on to do Boxcar Racer with Travis and didn't invite Mark. And this is obviously like, this album feels more like what Boxcar Racer did, and it feels more like what Angels and Airwaves became. Like, this is very like, let's take this divergence with this main band. And I don't know if it was like, maybe, hey, let's try some of this stuff with our actual band that I wanted to go do with Boxcar Racer, and now Mark can be a part of it. But I do feel like that was a very like hurt feeling that came from that. And then obviously Mark went on to do Plus 44 with Travis, and Tom went on to do Angels and Airwaves, which felt more like a natural thing that came out of this. Where Plus 44 did end up kind of sounding like this record. And then everything that Mark did after Tom was no longer in the band and he was writing with Matt Skiba from Alkaline Trio sounds like this, because Travis and Mark Hoppus have never stopped trying to pursue the Jerry Finn sound, period.
Also, when they did have Skiba on California, it's one of the worst records.
Let it go. We will never review Skiba era on this, because I can't say anything bad about anything Matt Skiba has ever done.
Legally.
Matt Skiba, Alkaline Trio, also worked with Jerry Finn. Everyone has tried to recreate that Jerry Finn sound. I'm telling you. They all worked with him, and they're all like, fuck, this was it. This is the best thing. I'm right.
Every time Brian says I'm right, just drink a little bit of your beatbox.
They hate to see Three Kings winning. Before we get into our thoughts and our opinions on this record, make sure you are subscribed. The year is ending 2024. This is our last album review of the year. We made it through the entire year. We did not miss a week. We reviewed an album per week this year. Change the dates, but an album has come out every week of this year. Sometimes 2. Never doing that again.
Go into the new year with your resolution that you are going to follow us.
More exclusive stuff coming here. More good stuff coming here. Drop a like if you like Blink-182. Drop a comment if you like Blink-182. Drop a comment if you don't like Blink-182. Drop a comment if you don't like us. Do not dislike this video. The video's fine. And thank you to Beatbox for sponsoring this episode. Folks, the year, when it ends, comes upon New Year's, and you might be wondering to yourself, how do I celebrate? How do I enjoy this last moments of 2024? How do I send it out with a bang? And you send it out with a box.
A beatbox.
Yes. Beatbox was kind enough to send us some flavors all across the board of different tastes. The Orange Blast is the latest flavor they got out. We also got Cherry Limeade.
We have
You
the
got
Cranberry Dream.
I got this hard tea one, which is actually quite tasty.
I also have this Peach Punch one, and here's the thing too. You can always mix them with each other or with other beverages as well and make yourself a little cocktail experiment. This would taste very good mixed together.
Make sure to grab some for your holiday party. Make sure to grab some for your New Year's party. Now's the time. They're available at stores nationwide. Check out Beatbox Beverages at the link in the description and etc. below. Be 21, be responsible, and thank you to Beatbox for sponsoring this episode. I could not listen to this record because I hated I Miss You as a song, because I thought this is the most hot topic ass bullshit I have ever done did here.
Oh my God.
As soon as I heard Nightmare Before Christmas being referenced in a song, I was like, it's Jover. We're done here. There ain't nothing left to do, man. Now we're like getting self-referential in the songs about like, yeah, you know how you go to Warped Tour and you like all these emo goth bands and you shop at the Hot Topic at the mall. Like, okay, we're too self-referential. I don't like that. Take me out of my life. I want to escape my life. But I'm listening to I Miss You and I'm like, okay, I'm my life now. This record is incredible.
Yeah.
I get chills listening to it now. And I like got mad at myself for being so like, you heard Jack and Sally and like a bomb went off in my head. I think it was because I didn't get into blink-182 while on the pop punk stuff because I was like just not really into it. I didn't really enjoy a lot of the pop punk stuff. I thought the singles were fine and then some of it was okay, but like I was like, this isn't for me. I don't like the immaturity. I don't like, it's like Green Day but for children. And like I liked Green Day a lot more because I'm like, yeah, these are good songs. This is fun. And I know there's like a lot of that snotty brattiness in both. Blink-182 just never did it for me, songwriting wise, music wise. So it took me a while to get into this record. And then I'm like, I'm an idiot. This is one of the most amazing records I've ever listened to. Every song on this record is different from the last. Every song on this record does something different than anything Blink-182 has ever done. I just always get mad at myself for being so like, yeah, I do shop at Hot Topic and that's okay. It's okay to reference Night Before Christmas in this song because everything else on this record is just so good. There's so many different things that happen on this record. So many things that I never would have expected to happen on this record. There's vocal melodies that like shouldn't exist in a Blink-182 song. There's electronic parts. There's guitar parts and bass parts that shouldn't exist. There's like, you know, we're talking about like Plus 44 and Angels and Airwaves, but also the Transplants, Travis Barker's band with Tim from Rancid, also like took like there's clearly a lot of inspiration in this and from this that went into that band too. Like this is everything that happened in music that every member did. I think this is the best thing they did for all of that. I think this record is a masterpiece. I think this record is a truly perfect early 2000s emo record from a pop punk band that understood like we can be deep and emotional and create something that is more personal and meaningful. And I'm like, this is it. All of that stuff that you did that I didn't like all culminated in this thing that like, okay, yep, you got me.
You're finally in.
Even with the new record and seeing it at like when we were young, the second year, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it, you know? The emotion behind this and the way that these guys are conveying it in between like all the silly shit and all the serious stuff. I'm like, okay, I get it now. Like I absolutely understand. There's still some stuff on this record that I'm like, that's goofy.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
it's
of
still
course.
them. But I think that they do it in a way that is more time appropriate, is more of the culture as the culture was moving forward. So I think that it just makes a lot of sense at the time, at the place. I think this record holds up immaculately well. I think the production on this record is incredible. Keep your Hot Topic out of this.
Keep your Hot Topic out of it. I'm going to be so frank and for real with everybody. I don't remember ever discovering Blink-182 or even listening fully to this album because I feel that there was just so many hodgepodge of singles that were thrown at me at a certain point that was the only way that I knew them.
True.
And I felt I didn't need to necessarily listen to more of it until I got more deeper into their discography later in life. And I do really enjoy older Blink-182 as well because I like more of that punky, like really quick, fast, silly, goofy vibe. This was such like a good integration overall when it comes to still appealing to their old sound and also saying, hey guys, we are growing up. We can't talk about shit and piss anymore. Crazy.
Well, it just wouldn't make sense anymore.
It wouldn't make, it just sound kind of weird, you know? This may or may not make sense. I feel that we progress within their guitar and instrumentals structure.
Absolutely.
Because it's like, yes, you finally doubled down, you learned more than 3 chords. And we're getting some of the best musicianship that we have from them out of this album because of it.
Without doing too much above what you would expect from a Blink-182 record. If it's 3 chords and a heart, right? You're getting like 4 chords and a heart. It's like you're still getting the same thing. You're just advancing upon like how you can make 3 chords work for you.
Yeah.
In a way that no I'm like, I don't know if any band has ever done quite what this record could do with the minimal amount of what you have. The tool set you have is small, and you've made it work so well for what you've created.
I think the fact that they're able to do that and then also still spin off so many long-lasting singles from here too. Now, much like you, I listen to I Miss You, especially now. It's so overdone. It's kind of beaten to the ground for me at this point.
We keep saying that, but then I'm like, there's a reason.
I mean, it's a good song, but also the meme of it, it's, okay, I get it. You're kind of basic.
There's a reason. It is a goth pop song from a pop punk band that has given us memes and has given us culture around it. There's a reason. There's a reason.
I can still be annoyed by it, though.
Yeah, you can be annoyed by it, but I hated it before it was cool. Stay out of my Hot Topic. You get on out of here. You get on out of that Hot Topic. You put that shirt down. I think that it's absolutely insane that this album has Robert Smith from The Cure on it.
Yes, absolutely.
And no other record from this time does. No other album from any of these other pop punk or emo bands got Robert Smith. But like the influence that The Cure had and Robert Smith had on these bands, and then blink-182 just had Robert Smith not as a feature on it, but like the song is basically like if blink-182 made a Cure song.
Yeah.
Even now when I listen back to it, I'm like, this song has no business existing, and it's one of the best songs on this record.
I would also say people forget about it so often, too.
Yes. And I don't know how. It's so good. All of This is the name of the song. One of the reasons I think this song is so good, and the reason I think that like the fact this album was so many singles that were very popularized, but not the album as a whole, is because of the transition from Easy Target, also a absolute banger.
Yeah.
And the guitar just slows down and then becomes the guitar for All of This and just keeps going forever. I'm like, that might be one of the hardest transitions I've ever heard. The best song to song transitions I've ever heard. I still have to listen to both of those songs in order just to get to All of This because I need that transition, dude. I need that transition.
You love an album that you have to listen to in order.
This is absolutely an album. Like it's not just singles, it's not just songs put together. It's an album. The pacing is great. The sequencing is great. The way that it's all built together is great. Again, it like moves through these movements where it's like one thing leads into the next section, and then those sections kind of do a couple things that are very similar. You know, you go from Always into Easy Target into All of This, and so you're kind of flowing through these like more like melancholy, like a lot of drum movement and a lot of faster parts into like something slower that also has like the same melancholy vibe of Always. And it just blends so well as like a 3-song sequence that like how the hell you do that? I still cannot listen to this record and not think, how the fuck did you get Robert Smith on this?
I think that's like everybody's question. Well, and I even think over like the last 20 years, how many bands have been able to get Robert Smith?
No, like hardly. I don't think a lot of people ask. I don't think Robert Smith says yes.
I mean, I understand.
Crystal Castles. That's the only other one that I've heard. And it's maybe Crystal Castles' best song.
He gets it. He got it.
He understood. It's like, you know, you do goth shit. That song is it's incredible. Whole album's incredible.
Something also that is still incredible is Stockholm Syndrome. I think adding that interlude beforehand, because I listened to Stockholm Syndrome individually.
Yeah.
I never listened to it with the interlude. And I think because I'm a sucker for anything that's spoken word and set in that type of vibe or any type of like special effects that get dropped in there from like a movie or anything, I love that type of stuff. It's always been a ripper of a song. I think you also had this kind of like sound effects that get thrown in here. You're creating this atmospheric environment to tell like this larger story that is complemented by the interlude that sometimes with an interlude on certain albums, it's just there to help transition. It's kind of like a semicolon. This is actually here as a colon or a full new paragraph to complement it. It's also a song that I don't feel a lot of people talk about as often.
None of the singles on this record get talked about nearly enough. Like, obviously, this came out at a singles time, right? So all of these album songs, right? Jerry Finn, he made albums, right? So, like, we did Sing the Sorrow, Sum 41, I'm going to go on record and say, maybe not an album, right?
All right,
It doesn't
calm
move.
down.
But Sing the Sorrow, theatrically, came out before this. Theatrically, that moves from the beginning to the end. Like, there are movements, there's like crescendos, there are all these songs that sound different from one another. And that same thing happens here too. But then you release that record in a time when everybody just wants singles, and you're like, cool, here's Feeling This, here's I Miss You. How many people are going to listen to this record for I Miss You and then go, yeah, I don't really care about like how Stockholm Syndrome has 2 parts?
Yeah.
Or the Fallen interlude comes after Down, and it makes so much sense after what Down sounds like that you just did Down part 2, and it's like, yeah, that's rad. That needs to be there. You can't do one without the other as an album.
Nowadays, too, if this was released in the 2010s or even now, maybe, I feel like a lot of these songs that we are probably picking out more so that aren't singles would be singles, or at least like be singles ran, and people would be way more into it.
Yeah, because Jerry Finn wrote beautiful things that everybody wanted to replicate, and now everyone's like, yep. There's a lot of MGK on this record too.
I hear that a little bit.
MGK releasing the best blink-182 records that were released before Tom came back. He did that because he was writing this record again.
MGK filled a void that we desperately needed during that time.
God.
And then he went back to rap and now country. And you know what? We can look at those 2 albums and say thank you. And that's all that exists.
It's weird to call somebody who copied, who did pop punk as a culture vulture, because it's like, yeah, do that. It's fine. It's legal to culture vulture pop punk. The worst opinion on this episode is MGK copied this record and did it really well.
That'd also be good right now for SEO because he broke up with Megan.
Megan, do you still like pop punk?
I mean, she's pregnant. You'll just have to be a stepdad.
With his baby.
Co-parenting with MGK.
This happens with a lot of these records where like one of the lead singles, you know, maybe good for like radio or maybe good for MTV and getting the word out there that this record exists, but might not be the strongest on the record. And I do think that Feeling This is like, besides I Miss You being like the biggest song on this record, obviously, Feeling This might be one of the like lower points on this album.
Really?
But like as an amazing song, right? Like because there are 2 singers in this band, which a lot of bands that have 2 singers, like they do the Taking Back Sunday route or they do like the Alkaline Trio route where like you either are over each other the whole time, maybe one is singing like a backup part while the lead singer's singing something else, or you just have the whole song for you and one song is a Tom song, one song is a Mark song. The structure of Feeling This is an absolute game changer for how a band can have 2 singers in it doing 2 different things with 2 different tones to their voices and creating this like sound for a pop punk emo band. And then you did that the rest of the album. So it's more like, yeah, this song, which was the lead single, this song is great, but everything you do on this album is taking the same idea of that formula that changes the game for a 2-singer band and does it incredibly well too. So maybe it's just because I've heard Feeling This so many times and I'm like, yeah, of course, that's how you do it, right? But then you hear everything else and you're like, yep, there's 2 vocalists on every song. There's nothing that's like a Tom song or a Mark song on this record as there was on previous ones.
Yeah.
It's all blended together. It's all interwoven. I think even Travis sing on? No, Travis sings on the new record. He just is in the video for Always, like mouthing the words, I think.
Yeah, you know, it's you got to get him in there.
This band is the 3 members and the 3 members doing what they do best on this album. But I think that the way that they learned on this record to meld everything together, if Feeling This is the first way you hear it and it's the only way you hear it, you're missing out on all the other good shit they do on this record where everything is meshed together and all of their strengths play off of one another. So I'm like, yeah, it might be the worst song on the record as one of the best records that Blink-182 has ever made and an amazing song. Like, whoa, I can't believe that's only a 9.9 out of 10, you know? The worst thing is a 9.9.
I would still also just argue in general, I think Feeling This is one of their overall, in general, stronger singles by comparison.
Oh, yeah.
Still very underrated, though, compared to everything else.
Yes.
But Violence is probably the first song.
I was waiting for you to talk about Violence.
Oh, I love Violence
Can't even put
so
that in
much.
the list because I'm like, Lizzie's got to talk about this.
I legally have to. Now, when I said I didn't really remember listening to Blink-182, like, really, this is probably the first song I said, oh, this isn't a single. It's one of my favorite Blink-182 songs, hands down.
It's too experimental to be a single, but we've had so much music that sounds exactly like this song come out since as singles that like we hear it now and we go, whoa, whoa, they were doing it back then and like really good.
It's so energetic. And the thing is, too, is that you still have Tom DeLonge's voice. It's like violence. I can't sing. But when we talk about being repetitive, in this sense, I don't see it as negative. I see it as you're nailing in some type of particular point over and over again. There's a lot of just different messagings and ways that you can basically break down violence dependent upon who you are as a person and what you're kind of going through. And I think that's the biggest thing because it kind of transcends. It's not always going to be this is the one reason. You can interpret it in so many different ways because it is repetitive, because it is poppy. And I think, again, with the instrumentation here, it's able to bring it a little bit deeper down. So it can kind of hit you more in like the middle of your chest and your heart and say, oh, damn, get it.
I always think that it's like the third song on the record. I feel like at this time, you had to have like a couple of singles in the first three songs.
Yeah.
I think I said it with like, I don't know if I said it on the Riot episode. I think I did. But like, there's a lot of like, I'm buying the album and I want to hear like the two lead singles, like as track 1, track 3, something like that. Like the beginning of the record is very singles heavy of what's going to go to radio and the back end is more experimental. That was a lot of albums at that time. This album, and much like Sing the Sorrow and everything Jerry Finn has touched, is like, we don't play by that rule. We just write good songs and we sequence them for the record. But I do feel like I Miss You is up too high at track 3 because I feel like the sequencing of Feeling This, Obvious, and Violence would be like so killer as like a 3-song like 1-2 punch. I kind of get it when you're like, okay, we want to bring it down to I Miss You, but I guess it's just a little bit of like, no, you're bringing me down too much with I Miss You.
Yeah, you're
you know?
starting up so hype and heavy. It's just kind of like that How I Met Your Mother sequence. And it's like, yeah, here's my New Year's Eve playlist. We always have to be high. We always have to be ready to go. And it's Bon Jovi's You Give Love a Bad Name.
Yeah.
You always have to be up and ready to go. And then you can eventually bring it down as it needs to be.
Yeah.
It's just formulating in that way.
Yeah. I feel like I Miss You would have been track 4 really strong right before going into Stockholm Syndrome. I think that this record is just, it's banger after banger, even if it does something different. It's hard to pick like your top tracks because you end up being like, yeah, the best songs are like the best songs and like the interludes are there, but it's like everything just fits together so well and it's so cinematic and it's so melodic and it's so much like just, it's like watching, I put it to like almost watching like an opera. Like you're watching like so many different things happen and every piece of it is coming together to create this storyline with music that like, it's not like to me, it's not a movie. It is cinematic, but it's like you're watching like a stage play and you're watching like the music happen around you and you're like engulfed in this moment of all of these things happening and you don't really know what's going on. And then all of a sudden Travis is just hitting the sickest drum solo for no reason. Just like,
you know what, he can.
A drum solo in the middle of this record? I don't know. Every song just works so goddamn well. Every song just fits perfectly on this record. Even I'm Lost Without You being like a long song that has just like a lot of like these electronic parts repeating over and over again. But I'm like, yeah, it works for me, man. It sounds like a Cure song. It sounds like, you know, all these other sides of bands that this band is obviously influenced by that they didn't do because they're just doing like all the punk shit, all the bratty pop punk shit. It's like, goddamn. Masterpiece record.
Honestly, like there's really nothing bad to say about this at all.
No.
If anything, it's just more of like a pleasant surprise to go back and listen to this and say, oh, wow, they really did make like a really perfect album, which is hard to say with a lot of these bands we have listened to.
It's hard for me to give any album that has interludes a 10 out of 10, right? Like, it's like, do you really need that there? Is the album made better by an interlude? And this is one of the only ones where I'm like, yes, like the world that I'm living in because this interlude is on this album is better because of it. Like your world building with this, not just putting in something to take up time. Even the Fallen interlude, which is just a Travis drum solo, is like, if not for that, I wouldn't understand what blink-182 is doing on this record. You want a Travis drum solo because you're listening to blink-182. And it's like, yeah, but let's do like the stuff we've been doing throughout this album and give you a sick ass drum solo. Like One of the rare that I'm like, okay, interludes, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I think
Rare.
I think interludes can lend and create so much more storytelling aspects, but you have to do it in a really good way. And not a lot of bands and acts use it. They use it as a semicolon.
It's
They
filler.
don't use it as anything else to actually
Get to
integrate
30
it
minutes. Do like skits. It's like, no, we don't need that shit. We don't need Anthem Part 2 at the end of this album either.
in.
Well, it takes me out because I'm like, you're listening to I'm Lost Without You, and it just sort of like is this moment where you're just like feeling this music and it's just waving over you, and then it just like fades out, and you're like, okay. And then it's just like, all right, Travis. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And you're like, hey, homies, I know what you want to put in there. It's like, as a treat, we don't need it.
This
as
goes
a
out to my
treat.
friend who in elementary school got a boner. It was really embarrassing. This song goes out to him. Okay, that's not like anything I just heard. That is.
You got to remind everyone who they're listening to.
I know, but do you? It's like one of those things where you're like, do you though? I don't need that. I don't need that moment. Like, this can just be the exact thing that it is, and it can wave over you like this, and it can exist, in your, like, this is an album you can sit and listen to.
Yeah.
And you can get so much out of the experience of listening to it. Where like a lot of their music is like, you don't need to do that. Like,
No, a lot of their other music previously before this is music that during that era was skateboarding music. You're hanging out with your friends, you're being stupid, you're being dumb.
it's party tunes.
Yeah, like that was the stuff I listened to when I was in high school because that's what me and my friends listened to. And then we have this, and this is, I can lay on my floor and like disassociate for a bit.
You can put headphones on and listen. Lossless. Title. I do think this is a record that's good. It's good to listen to higher quality on it. Anything but Jerry Finn. Oh, Jerry. R.I.P. Well, those are our thoughts. Those are our opinions on Blink-182's Untitled, self-titled Blink-182 record. Do you agree? Do you disagree? There's no way you disagree. This is one of the greatest records of all time.
If you're a Blink-182 hater for this album, I just have to say you're wholeheartedly incorrect.
You got to grow up a little bit, man. This is a very mature and very good record that has not gotten worse with age, has only stayed good, and has only influenced like everything that came after it. So let us know in the comments what you think, if you agree, if you disagree. If you're at When We Were Young 2025, hope they play a lot from this album because that'll be good. Doubt they're going to play a lot of it, but it'd be nice. Love to hear Obvious or Violence played live. That'd be cool.
Obvious was another one that I really love, and I will absolutely mess it up in a pit to violence any day of the week.
Hit the subscribe button. Until Blink-182, until Untitled, until When We Were Young 2025, when we're there watching this shit there. We'll see you there.